What is your favorite or most profound memory from childhood?
Well, you know, I don't want to be depressing or negative completely, but I did not have a happy childhood. And I always wanted to run away. And and one time I remember, trying to leave the apartment to run away. And my mother said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm running away." And so we got into an argument. And then she threatened to jump off the roof if I ran away. And I think that symbolizes the way I always felt trapped, and that I could never get away. So there are so many incidents that could back that feeling up. So that's
Good.
how about you?
Well, I had everything, and I had nothing. When I grew up, I was very lonely and very introverted. That's the short version. Do you want a little longer? A little longer?
Go ahead.
Not to brag, and I'm not, but I was a big fish in a pond, and it's not easy. For instance, in the town of Holyoke, they had on the mill they had a 6 foot letter in 6 foot lettering, William Skinner and Sons, and now you're in Holyoke was about 75% Irish, and in the mill and the tacked on the front door was a sign, and Fran will attest to this. It said, "Irish need not apply." And as you know, Irish have long memories.
So I rebelled in many ways.
You were a rebel. You were a rebel.
You were a rebel.
Absolutely. Because I was always trying to get out of these restraints.
Right.
And talk about, defying marrying an Irish girl, Catholic, with 5 kids.
Right.
He did his own rebelling.
Do you know anything about your ancestors or people from our lineage that immigrated over here, from things that your parents told you?
The only thing I know is, let's see, all my grandparents were born here, but a generation up, they all emigrated from Ireland.
So your great-grandparents
Yeah.
immigrated over here? Your great-grandparents?
Yeah. They're all from Ireland.
Okay.
Right. But my father's father, my grandfather's father,
Yep.
had a coal and ice business, probably a horse and wagon, right? And my father had to quit school. He was really bright, but he had to leave school to help, because they were dirt poor.
Wow.
And I've said before, part of the problem was my father was an alcoholic, and it sounds as if I blame him for everything, and there are times I hated him, hated him, and yet the good times I remember, when he got together with his sisters, and up in Yonkers, which is where my my father's parents lived. And I had a cousin, well, two boy cousins who lived up there. And Tommy Clarkin was somebody I was very close to growing up. And so the good times that I remember were also with him. So, you know, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my great-great-grandfather came from England. He was a weaver over there, and when he came over, they started a small mill in near Northampton, and it was doing okay, but a flood came and took the whole thing out. So they
Wow.
tried to so they relocated, and they relocated in Holyoke, which had a water system that provided power. They had 3 canals, and the water would go through, and then it'd go through the canal and go in and drop down to turn the turbines for the power. And then it would continue on to the next mill and keep going that way. Anyway,
That's cool.
yeah. So, but lineage-wise, okay, that was the great-great-grandfather. Then my grandfather had two, okay, he had, no, a great-grandfather had 2 sons, William and Joseph. And William was, he was the smart, he really was good. He was smart and he was tough and he was a very good businessman. And he ran the mill from New York, from the sales department, and the other, Joseph, my father's father, ran the mill part in Holyoke.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that takes us down to my father, who was not a businessman. They gave him a name-only treasure, and that's it.
And actually, my mother's father, I understand, his story is that he marched in a St. Patrick's Day parade and died. So anyhow, so he left widowed with 4 girls.
Wow.
Well,
And I'm sure my mother worked in the laundry.
Do you know anything about John Toohey's parents?
Well, yeah, his father came over from Ireland,
Okay.
and he became a policeman
In New York.
in New York, right?
And then what did he do later in life?
Anyway,
what did he do later in life?
oh, he had a bar. What else? in Parkchester, which actually, what would you call Parkchester?
I don't know, suburb?
No, like Stuyvesant Town. Stuyvesant Town was a high-end thing. It was a development built by the Metropolitan, and relatively low-income people lived there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like low income today. It was more average working people, and so that's how. Since he had a bar in Parkchester, that's how we were able to get our first apartment.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys met.
I met John at a party in the Bronx.
Ooh.
And actually, and when we got to the party, there were too many girls. So the person whose house the party was at went to the local bar, and there were a bunch of guys hanging out, and John was one of them. And he said, "We need guys at the party." And so that's how he came to the party. And he absolutely the opposite of Bill. I mean, he was really almost antisocial. Like the first thing he was telling me, Well, first of all, he asked me to dance, and all his friends couldn't believe it, you know. And believe it or not, he told them to shut up. This is a girl I'm going to marry.
Yeah.
The first day?
The first time, the very first time. And anyhow, so like he was telling me about having sisters and how when he went in the bathroom, there were always crinoline slips, you know, hanging out on the shower, and you know, so he wasn't a big fan of women. But I changed his mind. Okay, he had just finished law school, and so he was studying for the bar exam and stuff. So he didn't call me right away. And he did take me home that night, though, and complained about how I was geographically undesirable. So anyway, diplomacy was not his long suit. Okay.
Okay,
So-
now how you guys met. Grandpa, you can go ahead.
Okay, we met in Milford, Connecticut, where Grandma and Mom was what had been living with the whole family, and a mutual friend of ours asked me over for dinner, and they needed and he wanted to play bridge, and so he got a bridge player by the name of Fran, and that was it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we met. And I mean, neither of us were very good, but we were better than the Hares,
Right.
so we won. So that, and he followed me home.
See, he says he
You know,
drove
to
you.
make sure I got home safely. And then he said I clicked more signals than an airline pilot, like more lights going, right? So he wasn't a picture of charm either.
Yes, I did. I followed you home in the car. You're right. So anyway, and
Okay, so Grandpa, what made you want to take on a woman with 5 children?
I have no idea. I just fell in love. Easy as that.
Aww,
Simple.
that's sweet. That's great.
And a little bit of rebellion.
It's not true. So she was Catholic.
It's the forbidden fruit.
My father had never been in a Catholic church, so she did have 5 children. Well, you know, a lot of people have that.
And actually, after he asked me to marry him, right?
Yeah.
Then he went up to his father with a list of pluses and minuses.
Oh my god.
Oh,
A pro-con list?
no, well,
You tell it.
no, you're right, but it's the way you're saying
It's truthfully.
it. Yes, okay,
Right.
yes, okay, yes.
Like, okay,
But-
she's a Catholic, but this is what's great about her.
That's
What
right.
was on the list, do you remember?
No, but it wasn't true, but in essence, you know, once I had my mind made up, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So why did you bring him that list?
I didn't, just to get things going, because we never really talked, ever,
Oh.
ever. And so
Yeah.
that's
How did you propose to her?
her mother, I can remember. We were sitting on top of the stairs, going down to the cellar in your house. And
Yeah.
your mom was on the couch over there.
Right?
And that's when, didn't I ask you that?
Well, you may have,
Yeah.
but Ellen wants to know when you asked me. It didn't. It kind of evolved.
Mhm.
You know, it wasn't like he got down on one knee.
Oh, jeez, no.
Stayed upright, huh, Grandpa?
and then you guys had 4 more children. So how was raising a cumulative amount of 9 children? How did that go?
It was a lot of work,
Yeah.
and the kids really were great, but for me, I also felt trapped because I think I felt as if I did all the work, and I did.
Yeah, I guess the short answer for me was easy. I did the hands-on approach, which was absolutely wrong.
Hands off.
Hands off. Hands off.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounded like you
Turn
said.
it up. No,
It
no,
sounded like you said hands on.
no. Hands off. Anyway, I didn't. And to this day, and this is true, I regret that I didn't help them more, and I secondly regret that I didn't have more communication with the older kids.
And I felt so responsible for everybody that one thing I swore, because things were always so somber and dark growing up, I swore I was going to be a fun mother, and do wonderful things, and everybody would have fun over time. But I was so overwhelmed by the sense of responsibility that I really wasn't fun at all. And then Grandpa was the fun dad. So he always had the white hat and I always had the black hat.
Well, they all turned out great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So you did a good job in the end.
But we're really, I can't tell you how proud we are of them. We really are.
Absolutely.
And grandchildren.
Right.
What do you think your biggest challenge was when raising your kids?
My biggest challenge was what?
Like when
In
raising your
the
kids.
Just like
I pleasing everyone.
Yeah.
No matter where I was, I always felt as if I was letting somebody down. So, like if I went to Mary Ann's volleyball game, I was missing somebody else's tennis game. Yeah. And I wasted so much time trying to get Grandpa involved. And like never really having time for myself. Which is my fault for not thinking I could.
Yeah.
I thought I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
But times have really changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I was even thinking about school. Like I went back to college, but I still didn't know how to be organized or how to get things done in a timely manner. And I remember being at your house, and we went to pick up your supplies for the following year, and in the bag that they gave you, there was like a day timer. I don't know what it was.
Like a planner.
The planner. And I thought, God, that is so great. I never had anything like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to plan. And, I wasted so much time blaming my parents, but they didn't know either. And so I just think how lucky you guys are.
Yeah.
Really.
If you could tell future generations one piece of advice or the greatest lesson that you've learned in life, what would you tell them? What would you want them to know?
Right? For me, it's always tell the truth. And say what you mean, without saying it mean.
Yeah, that's,
I had a lot of saying what I mean, but I said it so meanly, it had no effect. And I'm thinking like, just simple questions. I can remember asking my mother, and I can't even remember what it would be. Oh, a little bird told me. You know, that's such a non-answer, and then you end up not communicating because it's a waste of time. So, I really believe in the truth, and yeah, I debated about whether or not to answer as honestly as I have, you know, because I didn't want you to think so negatively, but yet I wanted to be honest.
I'm thinking of the glass half empty and half full. I always think you should think of the glass as half full. Yes, positive people think solutions for problems. Negative people think problems for solutions. Do I have that right?
Right?
Positive people.
No, you got it.
Have I got it right?
Yeah.
And I really do believe that.
Yeah, what you believe,
Yeah,
right? Positive people
yeah.
don't have problems.
Well, I try to stop them a little bit.
But it is very hard dealing with somebody who won't admit there's a problem.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
that's depressing
Yeah.
to the person who's trying to say, no, you know, you have to pay the insurance. And you,
What? You're right.
right?
Yes.
So
Fred is kind of like Rose.
brutally honest.
But you know, well, right?
No, but that's the reality.
Yes.
So grandma is more of a realist,
Yeah.
and you're more of an optimist.
Yes.
More of a what?
Optimist.
You're more of a realist, and he's more of an optimist.
That is correct.
Right. He's a dreamer.
Oh.
No, but it's true.
Yeah, it is true.
So do you want to elaborate more on that, Grandpa?
No,
That's it?
really, that's, and I don't think, okay, I don't think people should really take themselves too seriously because there's always somebody that's laughing at you, not with you, always. So that,
I want to know what your experience, like, what you would like to say about your experiences first raising your 5 kids by yourself for that period of time and then losing a child.
Right? Raising 5 children by myself, I was so busy, you know, and just trying to get through each day that in many ways I don't think I grieved as much as I grieved after Mary Ann died. I really think I was grieving both deaths when she died. It's unbelievably heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It really is.
But with John's death, it's like you had babies that were still depending on you to survive.
Right.
So you had things to keep you busy that you needed to do
Exactly.
every day.
Exactly.
And you didn't really have that later on when Mary Ann passed.
Right. It was heartbreaking. It really is. So it sounds funny that you could grieve a child more than a husband, but it can happen. And it's not that I wasn't heartbroken. But, you know, I can remember one time sitting in the hospital and he was worried about how I would manage. And I really at the time had great faith, and I thought God would allow him to help me
Yeah.
in some way. And so, you know, sometimes when I didn't know what to do or was worried or something, I would go to the cemetery. And it was almost, you know, talking to a grave.
Do you believe in God now?
I think so. I don't have the faith that I did have. But I'm working on it.
What makes you believe less now?
I don't know, maybe just listening to so many
Negativity.
yeah,
Negativity.
maybe. Because I really, basically, believe it or not, I am an optimist. You know, because I really believed I would get through that time and everything would work out. And, you know, the kids would all be wonderful. And they are. See, that worked out.
Okay, is there anything else you guys want to add?
Just that we
I
love you
love
all.
her, and I love you, and I love you all too. But
I love you.
love you.
We're gonna wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Just love you.
And you did a heck of a good job.
So did you guys.
Yeah.
Can you guys kiss?
What?
Kiss.
Do we have to
Yep.
kiss?
Yep.
You know, in this and this.
What?
What? No.
Oh, what?
Oh, I got it.
No, we're just.
That was a good one.
Love you too. Love you too. We're sitting.
Oh, it's just a selfie?
Yeah, it's a selfie.
Let me pinch the You're all good now. Are we just smiling?
Good.
That it?
Okay.
That's good.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Did I ever tell you the story about your father? And like when we were still living in Milford before I had my grandfather. On Saturday mornings, he was really into dinosaurs. Did I tell you the story?
No.
So anyhow, there was a museum, the Peabody Museum in New Haven, where they had a dinosaur, or maybe a couple. And so I would take him up there so he could see it. And then, you know, one Saturday I said, well, I'll take him out for lunch and just give him a lesson in being a gentleman, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there was a store, Edward Malley, and they had a lunchroom. So, you know, that was someplace simple to bring him. So we get there and, you know, we went to the table and I said, okay, Jim, now push my chair in, right? And I sat down and I Jim, and I looked back and he's like back by the door, right? And I said, Jim, come here. And you have to push my chair in. He said, yeah, but you're heavy. So he was trying to get a running start so he could push. So he was very literal, even as a child.